So paradoxically, somebody who has a strong quant background from school, if they're trying to use what worked for them in school, it's reasonable to think, oh, I'm going to do this again for this test. But it's not going to work on this test. You actually have to study differently. So people who have done really well in math classes in school and quantitative-based academic situations, what they'll do is they'll do what worked for them in school to study for the GMAT, which is not what's going to work for the GMAT. So in school, when we were learning math, think back to how the chapters worked. So you had these questions where it was like, okay, here's a question. Then here's 5 more versions of that question, but just with different numbers. And there are 6 steps to answer that kind of question. So memorize the 6 steps. And then you have that with a few different questions. And then you get a test that has basically those exact same questions again, but with different numbers. And you're just spitting back the steps that you memorized to learn how to solve those questions. That's how math in school works. That's not how the GMAT works. The questions that you see on the GMAT, you're never going to see the exact same questions that you studied, but just with different numbers or with a couple of different details. The name of the math section is not math or quant, it's quantitative reasoning. What they're actually testing us on is how we logically think about quantitative concepts. And so the questions that you see, parts of them are going to resemble questions that you studied. They're going to ping things and say, oh, I saw something that was partially like that, but it also had this partial thing over here and maybe this third thing over here. And you're going to have to integrate all of that, that knowledge that you learned before you got to that question on the test to figure out how to reason your way through it in the moment. And that's a very different way to study than just, oh, here's a question. It has 6 steps, memorize them, and you're going to see this exact question, but with different numbers in the test.